Ahead of the Temporal Forces launch on Thursday, March 21st, the Pokemon Company has revealed the 8 new free decks coming to Pokemon TCG Live. Unlike the Battle Pass decks that change every 2 to 3 months with each new set, these 8 default decks will be free to everyone until early 2025. All you have to do is log into the game and they'll be added to your collection forever. These 8 free decks join the 2 new free decks on the Temporal Forces Battle Pass, which are Raging Bolt EX and Iron Crown EX. Since Iron Crown is on the Premium Battle Pass, you will need to spend 600 crystals to get it, an easy choice to make. So the 8 free decks for 2024 are Charizard EX, Chen-Pao EX, Gholdengo EX, Giratina VSTAR, Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR, Lugia VSTAR, Mewtwo EX, and Roaring Moon EX. Aside from Zoroark and Mewtwo, these are all Tier 1 or Tier 2 archetypes, so the developers really knocked it out of the park. And the lists don't slouch either. While they aren't perfect, something like Charizard includes 2 Pidgeot EX, 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin, a Radiant Charizard, and so much more. If people are interested, I'll do upgrade videos for each of these decks, but for now, I'll rank them all from best to worst in their current form, starting with that Charizard EX deck. The reason Charizard is number 1 is simple. You have 3 Charizard EX and 2 Pidgeot EX. There is still room for fine-tuning, but everything you need to showcase the power of Charizard EX is already in here. I talked about the strategy for a lot of these decks in my post-rotation video, but you'll notice that things here are a little different. While you will be using the 4 copies of Rare Candy to evolve into Charizard and Pidgeot, Technical Machine Evolution is also heavily featured here. Between 4 copies of Arven and 3 copies of Evolution, as well as 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin, 2 Nest Ball, and 4 Ultra Ball, being able to evolve Charmander and Pidgey at the end of your first turn going second are extremely high. After that, you evolve into Charizard EX, use its ability to put energy into play, then do anywhere from 180 to 330 damage based on the number of prize cards your opponent has taken. And if you want to put your opponent on odd prizes, Radiant Charizard is able to deal 250 damage for as little as 1 energy. It also hits grass types for weakness, which is like the main way people try to beat Charizard EX. I'm going to be completely honest, decks 2 through 5 are all pretty much on the same level. If Charizard is Tier 1, all of these are Tier 1.5 or Tier 2, and everything after is Tier 3 or 4. I do have reasons for the placement of certain lists, but all 4 of these next decks are worth playing. The reason I put Roaring Moon in second is because of its early game power. While it's missing Radiant Greninja, which would be an improvement over Radiant Sneasler, everything else is designed to give you an insane turn 1 going second. Yes, just like Roaring Moon pre-rotation, you always want to go second post-rotation. That first turn is all about going a little crazy. Between Trekking Shoes, Squawkabilly, Earthen Vessel, Ultra Ball, and Explorer's Guidance, you could see more than half of your deck on turn 1, and that's a good thing. Depending on what your opponent's active is, you either want to attack with Roaring Moon EX or Roaring Moon. Between Professor Soda's Vitality and Dark Patch, getting energy onto your Pokemon should be fairly easy. Then either use the EX's Frenzied Gouging to one-shot their active, at the cost of putting 200 damage on yourself, or use Calamity Storm to deal 220 damage if you discard a stadium in play. After that, Baby Roaring Moon comes in and does 70 damage plus 10 more for each ancient card in your discard pile. The deck runs 29 ancient cards, so it'll be a great attacker at the end of a game. You just have to make sure you don't deck out along the way. It might not be whacking off with Iron Hands EX, but the free Chen-Pao EX deck has like 50 cards you'd see in a typical Tier 1 list. Not only does it hit super hard with Chen-Pao, which does 60 damage for each water energy you discard from your Pokemon, but the whole deck fits together like toes in a mouth. As I mentioned in my post-rotation video, going first or second is really up to you. First isn't a terrible option, as there's 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin, 3 Frigibax, 4 Nest Ball, and 4 Ultra Ball, so getting a good start is likely. But if PTCGL hates you, go second and use Irida to ensure that Poffin and any water Pokemon you need. Then on your second turn, you use Irida again, Lumineon V can just go and get it, to get a Rare Candy and Baxcalibur. Since Chen-Pao's ability gets you water energy, you should have quite a few in your hand by then. Attach that energy with Baxcalibur's ability and start doing crazy damage. Superior Energy Retrieval recovers that lost energy, so you can do the same thing the following turn. And don't forget about Radiant Greninja, which can decimate an evolution deck if they weren't able to get a Manaphy down in time. Speaking of big one-shot power, there's Gholdengo EX in 4th place. Because the developers didn't pair it with Palkia VSTAR, your only attacker in the entire deck is going to be Gholdengo. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. So long as you have a good turn 1, the deck should stabilize by turn 2. I'd recommend your board at that point have 2 Gimmighoul, 2 Ralts, and depending on the matchup, a Manaphy. After that, you use Gholdengo's ability to draw cards for free, while Kirlia forces you to discard a card to draw 2. I'm a little concerned about only having 1 copy of Super Rod, but 2 copies of Tulip means you can put up to 4 Psychic Pokemon or Psychic Energy back into your hand. And Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking stacks your deck with any 2 cards, which pairs perfectly with both Gholdengo and Kirlia. The upside with Gholdengo is that you only need to discard 7 energy from your hand to one-shot basically every Pokemon in the game, and recycling the energy is super easy. The downside with this list is that there's no alternate strategy. If you can't get Gholdengo up and running, you lose. So how about the most complicated list in the group? Also given to us last year, Giratina VSTAR's list in 2024 brings a 3-3 line of Tina, as well as pretty much everything else you need to win, except for Lost Vacuum. I probably should have put it a bit higher, but Giratina gets too much attention already, and I'm a little concerned about that lack of Lost Vacuum. I know it seems odd, but not being able to bump a Hero's Cape or Stadium while boosting your Lost Zone in the process does seem like it could be a problem. Not to mention the lack of Pokegear to find Colress. And because Battle VIP Pass is gone, you have to rely on Nest Ball to get everyone not named Comfey. Despite the red flags, it's Lost Giratina. You use Cramorant to attack for free on turn 1 to deal 110 damage, Giratina VSTAR to attack on turn 2 for 280 damage with Mirage Gate, Giratina VSTAR to attack on turn 3 for a one-hit KO against anybody with Star Requiem, and then clean anybody else up with Sableye Lost Mine. It's both a skill-based and luck-based deck though, so don't play it if you're a brand new player. If you do, you'll probably think I'm crazy for saying it's good. While Zoro Art VSTAR has seen a bit of success post-rotation in Japan, it definitely belongs in 6th on this list, away from those other top decks. Since Zoro Art does damage based on the number of Pokemon you have in play with damage counters on them, the list is focused on doing that. Gapejaw Bog puts 2 damage counters on any Pokemon played from hand onto the field, then Dodrio damages itself each turn to draw a card. Use Damage Pump to move those counters around to power up Zoro Art's attack, which unfortunately tops out at 280 with this list, and close out games with Dodrio, who can deal 280 damage with 9 damage counters on itself. I like the synergy here with a lot of the cards, and adding a maximum belt will do wonders, but as is, it's lacking that true one-shot power decks in 2024 are going to need. This might seem controversial at first, considering Lugia VSTAR is one of the top decks in 2024, but take a closer look at the list. Yep, there's no Cinccino. Without it, the most damage anyone in this deck can deal is Lugia VSTAR at 220, and it goes down to 200 if you attach Double Turbo. I do think Explorer's Guidance is an interesting inclusion. The whole goal of Lugia early is to get Archeops in the discard pile so you can Summoning Star them into play, but it's just too destructive. You could easily discard your special energy, which can't be recovered, screwing you over for the rest of the game. So between a low damage output and potentially rough Explorer's Guidance plays, I have to put it in 7th. Just because Mewtwo EX is last doesn't mean it's bad, it just means the other 7 are better. The strategy is pretty simple. Use Xatu to get as much energy into play, thus boosting the power of Mewtwo EX's Photon Kinesis. The problem with this is that Mewtwo needs 11 energy in play to one-shot a Charizard EX. By the time you get there, Charizard's probably too far ahead. And the other cards aren't very helpful. Yeah, Arceus VSTAR can get you any 2 cards on turn 2 with its VSTAR power, but it's just a 1-1 line, meaning you can easily be screwed over by prizes. And Enamorous V is good at blocking Iron Valiant's ability, and not much else. Mew EX would have been so much better. But yeah, 8th place. Overall, the free decks for 2024 are insanely good. Yes, the lack of ace specs in any of them seems like a missed opportunity, but 5 or 6 of these should be top decks until our next rotation in March 2025. Now that we know the default free decks, I can give you the finalized crafting guide for Temporal Forces. The new staples you get for free are 4 Roaring Moon, 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin, 4 Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking, 4 Explorer's Guidance, 1 Morty's Conviction, 2 Mist Energy, and 2 Rescue Board. This brings down the total you need to spend on the best cards to less than 15,000 credits. If you're not prepared for rotation and the release of Temporal Forces on Thursday, I've got several videos to get you up to speed. Otherwise, come watch me stream the new decks live on Twitch at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on most days, or stay tuned for uploads here on YouTube of the best games.